The hardest things to keep warm in an extreme cold environment are your hands and your feet. We're going to talk a little bit about how to keep your feet warm and dry when you're on an expedition. Like any other part of your body, it's really a system of using layers. Most people, when they're skiing or dog sledding, wear only one or possibly two socks. The first sock, if you're going to wear two, would probably be a very thin liner sock that's made out of a polypropylene material. It wicks moisture away from your skin out to the outer layer of the sock. And the outer sock would be something a little bit heavier, like this wool sock, or here's another version that's synthetic material. Some people don't like to wear the liner sock. It's uncomfortable, they find, or they just don't prefer it, and they'll just go with one sock alone. That's just fine. But what we have found is that a lot of people do like to wear the liner sock. You're trying to protect from three things happening actually. One is you want to keep your foot warm, and the insulating sock's really good at doing that. That also has a little bit to do with your boot. The second thing that's really important for you to do with your foot system is control moisture. Moisture can come from two places. It can come from the outside, such as if you're at Greenland and it's really wet and moist out, or more likely it comes from inside, from the sweat of your foot. So to protect from the inside moisture, which is the more common of the two, we have what we call a vapor barrier system. So the way that would look is you'd be wearing a really thin liner sock, just like this. You'd go right against your skin on your feet. The next layer would be the actual vapor barrier. This is really just a synthetic material. It's like a plastic that's waterproof. It's in the shape of a sock, and you put it on over the liner sock, and what it does is it traps any sweat that your foot produces against your liner sock, and it keeps your outer sock, which goes on next, it keeps that dry. It also keeps the liner of your boot dry. So here we have a 3-sock system. We've got your liner sock, we've got a vapor barrier, and then we've got your insulating sock. And all of that goes inside of your boot. What do the boots look like? If you're at the North Pole or the South Pole, we have a really heavy-duty boot. This is one style of boot. We have a couple other styles. But all of our boots have a really well-insulated toe that's quite wide and a good traction on the bottom. All of our boots also have a liner that comes out of the boot. So at night, one of the things that you do before you go to bed is you take the liner out of your boot and you put it somewhere where it can dry overnight. Sometimes you hang it up in the tent while you cook. Sometimes you put it in your sleeping bag while you sleep. But you always want to take the liner out of the boot so that it doesn't freeze in the middle of the night. So this is the boot that we take to the South Pole and the North Pole. The boot that we take to Greenland's a little bit different. It's actually a backcountry ski boot. It's compatible with NNN bindings, and this is what it looks like. Slightly different, a lot smaller, less bulky. One other thing that you want to have with you for your feet on these expeditions is a camp bootie, something to wear at the end of the day when you want to get your feet out of these big heavy boots, but you're still going to be moving around camp. And there are a lot of different options for this, but a lot of us prefer to use a mukluk or a synthetic bootie. This is what a mukluk is. It's a leather boot with a canvas upper and a sole. It's very lightweight, and it also has a removable liner. So this probably weighs about a pound and a half, maybe a little bit less than a kilo with everything all inside of it, the liner and everything, and you can use this almost as a spare boot. Another option is this little camp bootie, which is made out of down, but it also has a relatively rugged sole, not quite as rugged as the mukluk, but it allows you to move around camp without having to wear your big heavy boot. So the things that you want to have for your feet, you want to have a couple pair of liner socks. These are very small, very compact. You can even store them in tight places. You want to have a pair of vapor barriers. We can help you find these because they're not always easy to find. And actually, in a pinch, a plastic bag, such as a bread bag or something like that, works just as good as this vapor barrier sock. And finally, you want to have a few pairs of a synthetic warm sock, either made out of wool or some other kind of synthetic material. You want to have a boot, which for many of our expeditions we provide, but for some expeditions, such as the South Pole, you need to provide on your own. And if you are providing your own boot, you want to make sure that it is warm to maybe -80, maybe even -100. Give us a call and we can walk you through that process of finding boots and even make some suggestions on makes and models. And finally, you want a camp bootie that you can wear around the tent, even outside walking in between tents when you're not wearing your big heavy boots. Other than that, we can help you out with making some suggestions for keeping your feet warm and comfortable and having a wonderful expedition.